Hi. Hello, everyone. First of all, thanks for coming. Thanks, Gabi, for a perfect talk. Actually, I'm going to continue about testing, but I will talk about the smallest part of a pyramid, about end-to-end testing. So my name is Tsibulskaya. I was surprised that I pronounced my surname. I'm going to talk today about screenshots and automation testing, when, how, and why we're using it at Wix. No? OK. So agenda for today is first part will be about debugging with screenshots, second part testing with screenshots, then some live coding example, and the short summary. First part is about debugging. Why I'm actually starting to talk about this subject and how I came here. So I started working at Wix like 3.5 years ago as a manual QA. Then I switched to automation testing, and then actually came to front-end. So it was long road with testing along this road. So when I was working as a manual QA, I started in a small team, and I was the first QA there. So we had like 5-6 developers, probably Shachar remember. And when I came there, I thought, oh, great, I won't have so much work. I will be relaxed and having fun and everything. And then the hardcore part started, because only Shachar could, during the night, generate work for me for a few days. And we had few people like this. So in 1 year, when we started even grow dramatically, started hiring new people, making new product, I had tons of work. And then someday, I missed the bug. A critical bug, we found it after like 2 weeks. We had a page with a newsfeed of our users, and it was shown only in English. In all other 10 languages, I think we supported that time, it just was blank. We didn't notice that. I didn't catch it because it was like 4th or 5th testing cycle during the day, so I just didn't check all the languages, of course. So we got to points that we need an automation. And because our automation team was pretty busy and they had roadmap and everything, we decided that I will try to write tests. That's how actually automation part of my life started. I was pretty excited. I started to read about Selenium. We were using Java at that time. And I wrote a huge amount of tests. It was like 100 tests. And then we decided that we need to run them on some remote servers, so developers can run it, I can run it, and we will see reports and all the pretty stuff. So I said, OK, great, let's add it to remote server. We added, and all my tests failed there. Have your tests ever failed? Please tell yes, because I won't feel that great, thanks. So I got a problem. No, firstly, I came to a guy from automation team and said, why? And he said, it's OK. Tests can fail, and actually probably should fail in some cases in different environments. By environment, I mean operation system, browsers, Selenium version, screen resolution, Chrome driver version. Whatever difference you have, it can affect your end-to-end tests. Is everyone familiar with end-to-end and what it means? OK, great. So I got a problem to find the exact reason on failure on remote machine, because on my local computer everything worked. And it was just magic. What happened somewhere there? We had the servers in Amsterdam. Of course, I couldn't just come there and see what's going on in a browser. They even didn't have a displays, of course. So we found a solution. We needed a visualization of a problem, screenshots on failure of a test. How how it works, you have a test, your test is running. If test failed, on the moment it fails, we're making a screenshot. How it actually looks, here is a test example. We're testing an error when your input is too long. Test scenario is just enter more than 300 characters. Click submit button, get an error with tooltip. Here you can see that I read it means error, of course, and here is a tooltip with explanation why error happened. And I have a failing test, which is actually not so clear because no element found using locator tooltip. Okay, but why? Possible reasons for failure, the submit button didn't work. If submit button didn't work, there wasn't any error, there wasn't any red border, and of course no tooltip because button just didn't work. Another reason, there was no error at all. So submit button worked, it passed, everything was green, and it accepted an input with more than 300 characters, which means we have a bug. Third, there was an error but no tooltip, which means that it showed a red border but no tooltip on it. And the fourth reason I found it's that there was a tooltip but test is incorrect. For example, the selector is not correct for a tooltip which we're trying to find, or I don't know, some test steps are incorrect, or we are waiting for tooltip to appear and it already disappeared probably, something like that. So the problem is in test. For debugging every of these reasons, I would spend a lot of time. Because without the screenshots, what? I need to add some console logs, I need to add waits, not waits, I need to add more checks in the middle of test, because how else can I debug? And the power of screenshot is here. That was an actual screenshot of how it looked on a remote server and the expected results. So you can see that there was an error but no tooltip on it, which means that from 4 different reasons we got just one, and now we need to debug just one reason, which is saving us 4 times less. So now the interesting part, how do we make screenshots at Wix? But firstly, I want to answer a question which probably you have, why I'm telling you about QA and all this stuff. Because in almost 2 years after that situation, I moved to front-end. And it was new technology, Angular, JavaScript. I never worked with it before. I wrote tests, they failed. Again, déjà vu, it's the same situation. So I decided, okay, probably not only me having this problem and we need to do something generic. So we created a library, which is open source. You're welcome to use it. You're welcome to pull requests. It's a Jasmine reporter for creating a screenshot and HTML capture, which is actually just a file with the HTML of your page on the step when it failed for every failed test. You're just installing it with NPM, adding to protractor config. What is protractor actually? It's a wrapper for Selenium for JavaScript. Big library with very easily usages, and if you're testing E2E in JavaScript, you will use it anyway. So you're adding the Jasmine reporter to protractor config as on a step 2. Set environment variable to work with your continuous integration tool, TeamCity, whatever. In environment variables, you need 2. First, it's screenshot-based directory, which is a path to where you want to store your screenshots, which means user, bin, whatever. And screenshot remote link, it's a URL to where you want to access this screenshot from, which can be some URL of your TeamCity and then or your bucket with where you just store logs. You can find it on GitHub here in Wix screenshot reporter. So how can screenshots actually help? First of all, it's visualization. You're not guessing, you're just seeing the problem. Less time spent on debugging test code. As I shown before, we had 4 different reasons why test could fail, and we got just 1 reason left after we saw a screenshot. It's kind of version control, because if you're running on remote server, you have logs, of course, and you can see after which changes test failed, why they failed, what was there, who fixed it, and so on. And it can be also a trigger for synchronization of testing environment. What I mean here is that from time to time, you don't have automatic updates on remote machines, and at some point you can get a situation when you're using I don't know, Firefox 3 on your remote machine, and you already have a Firefox 33. So test started failing. You see that in screenshots that it renders absolutely differently. You're trying to understand why, and then you see that it's just different browser. Very old, it probably don't support some JavaScript, CSS, or some pretty stuff you're doing there. So you just need to update if you're not supporting Firefox 3, of course. As a small summary, no guessing, no magic, no console logs anymore for debugging tests. And yeah, you got a screenshot. Questions, meanwhile?
The screenshots, they are images or the HTML?
You can do both. So I talked about images, like classical screenshots, but the library which I showed, it also makes a capture of HTML. So it helps you to see, like if you see just a white screenshot, you can't understand what was there. And if you're seeing the HTML, you can see that your Angular app, for example, was loaded, wasn't loaded, what was this blank page, and so on.
Yeah, but in the image you can see the mouse and other medias, and on the HTML you won't see the mouse point.
Yeah, of course.
So there's pros and cons for image.
Yeah, but there you can use all together, and yeah, got more. Also, probably we can add videos for this library to be able to see full test and not just a screenshot in the end, but I'll be happy if someone from you will write it and pull request. So now for a second part for testing, continuing my story with the QA and automation and failing tests. We finally made it work in a remote machine, and everything was okay, I was happy. And they decided that, okay, now everything is covered, I don't need to do any manual sanity anymore. I can just drink a tea, lay on the beach, and be happy. And then, cross browsers. That's the part every QA hates, actually. And probably not telling you a big secret about it. But of course, you can't cover with the integration tests or just E2 tests which are using selectors, all the browsers, because from time to time in different browsers, pages renders differently only in CSS. So it means that some margin was changed. Some of CSS attributes just didn't work for Internet Explorer or for Opera, for example. And you got your selector, you got your component, your test passed, but component was shifted, or it was shown incorrectly, or it was broken. So we got another problem. UI testing is difficult to automate. Why? Because again, as I said, you can actually try to load CSS class and try to compare CSS, what you're getting with CSS, which you're expecting, and so on, but it's really difficult to maintain, difficult to write, difficult to understand then what you meant a year ago with this specific test. So we got a solution. We're using ApplyTools Eyes. ApplyTools, it's an Israeli startup actually. And they have a testing tool that can automatically validate all the visual aspects of web, mobile, and desktop applications like a manual tester does. Some of you know ApplyTools, familiar with? Great. For those who don't know, in few words how it works, First of all, it runs test first time and create a baseline, which is a base screenshot it will compare to. Then every new run makes a new screenshot and compares this new screenshot with the baseline which you saved on the first step. Then smart algorithm finds difference like a human eye. It's really like a human eye. So you can set it to be pixel to pixel comparison, but usually you don't need it. You need to see difference just what you see. And algorithm does it. And then it creates a full report with the highlighted areas where they found differences, if they were found. And you're getting the result in your test report. So if test passed or failed, and if it's test failed, you're getting a link to the Applitools dashboard where you can see all the highlighted areas. You can see what was the baseline, what was the new screenshot, and why it actually failed. Our Applitools experience here at Wix, we're running like 500, 1,000 tests per day. It's a visual test which are checking UI, which are making screenshot and compare the screenshots. We're running in 4 browsers: Chrome, Firefox, Internet Explorer, and Safari. Actually, we're running few versions of Internet Explorer and few versions of Safari. So actually, it's 6 different browsers, but let's have 4 at least. It's 16 languages. For now, Wix supports 16 different languages, so we're running it in 16 languages. And 2 programming languages. We have 2 kind of frameworks for testing, for Java and for JavaScript. So we're using Applitools in both. This is an example test from Applitools site. You can see that you need eyes, which is their library, for protractor, which is a framework for JavaScript. Set key, and then your regular test where you need to do open, then some test, check window, and close. That's how we write the same test at Wix. It's absolutely the same test. We require eyes.it. It's our library, thanks to Shahar. And you're just using your tests, which you already have. You're not changing anything. You're just adding eyes.it, eyes dot actually before your it, which you already have, and it works. What you need to use this library, again, it's open source, so you're welcome to use it. You're installing it with npm, adding your API key, which you're getting in Applitools account. Then you need to require eyes.it. And instead of having your IT test, you're just adding eyes.it, and in the end of the test, it will create a screenshot and compare it to the previous screenshot. It's not what I told about. It's not about failing tests, not failing tests. It is a part of a test. So if you're just loading a page, you can have for now a test. Browser get, load some page, and check that page was loaded. With eyes.it, in the end of the test, when page was loaded, you're making a screenshot. It compares to the previous screenshot. You created a baseline. And it checks all the UI, all the components you have there, their positioning, colors, and everything. So if there is any difference, it will fail. Here I have few tips and tricks for Applitools users. I don't recommend using the same baseline, I mean the same first screenshot for running locally and on remote server, because locally you can have a small screen, for example, or you can have some different operation system, different version of browser, and when we're talking about UI, it matters. So when you're running on a remote server, it's better to compare local server with local and the remote server with remote image. I don't recommend approving a baseline automatically, even though Applitools has this function, and you think that probably that it saves a lot of time because you don't need to approve it manually every screenshot you made, first screenshot of course. I don't recommend doing that because you should see what you approved as a baseline. If you approved something incorrectly, it will compare it with the incorrect version, and you cannot know that your test actually failed and your page actually is not loading. Choose your matching level accordingly to the needs of the project. What is matching level? It's a level on which it checks your screenshot. So it can be pixel to pixel, it can be strict, which checks everything, and what? Sorry. And the layout, which you can use for, and we're using for non-static components, which means that if you're having translations, for example, need to support a lot of languages, and in Deutsch the translation is big and in English it's small, if you're comparing it in strict mode, your test will fail because it's different text actually. But if you will compare it in layout, it will just check that you have text there, and text component displayed in the place it should be displayed, and it won't fail for changing the text inside this component. Which also can be used for example, cross-browser testing, for cross-operation system testing, and even some people are using it for checking mobile. So it also works. I also recommend to use parameters in the test name in order to create different baselines. Which means if you want, for example, if you don't want to use layout, you need to use strict for all languages you have. You need to create a new baseline for every language. So you can just add a parameter to the name of the test with the language and run it. You don't need, I don't know, 15, 16 different tests, just one test with a parameter, and it will work. And also, AppleTools has an ability to ignore some areas which, for example, you have some page and you're using some TPA on it or some other Steams component, you just don't care. If it's shown, if it's not shown, it's not your problem. So you can ignore it and it won't be compared, this part. But I suggest not to use ignored areas too much, because if you're ignoring, I don't know, 2 from third part of your screen, it means that test is not correct. You can make a screenshot of some specific component if you need. You can make screenshots for 2 components on the same page if you need, but don't make a screenshot of full page and then ignore everything except of your small component. Yeah, automation equals automagic in this case. You can see it's a real example. We got this test a few days ago. We had a page without any footer, and we got a footer at some point. So the footer was shown as a difference. This is a screenshot from AppleTools dashboard, so that's how they highlight changes. And actually, in this case, it was a bug. So AppleTools saved us. Live example. I will show in a live example actually both parts, for debugging a screenshot reporter and for testing IZT. I created a very small, simple project which was just one test. This test goes to page with jobs. Then sleeps some time so we can see that it was loaded and sees the browser, and then it checks that the current URL contains a Wix.com. It's a protractor. Here in protractor conf I already added a screenshot reporter. So if our test will fail, we will get a screenshot. But let's see from the beginning that test actually works. So it opened the, okay, test finished and it opened. So test passed, we can see 1 speck and 1 green dot. Now let's make test failed. Let's go to Google instead of Wix.com. So now we're going to Google and expecting the current URL to contain Wix, which is unfortunately impossible for now. So I'm running test, it goes to Google. You can see it on the background. And test failed because it expected Google to contain Wix. So now I'm making test pass again. And now I want to add ice.it. Actually,
Can we see the screenshots?
yeah, I'm trying to update. So here in the report, you can see that it created a screenshot and it has link to screenshot. But somehow my project is not updated in IntelliJ, but okay, let's just try to open it in a browser. Okay, I probably need to check something because it worked before. Okay, let's start the second part. I will check it after. Let's add a screenshot test. So I need eyes, which require eyes.it. And instead of IT test, which I had, I'm adding just eyes.it. I already exported my keys, so I'm just running again. So it focused the window to make a screenshot now, and we will see it's making. Okay, so now test failed because you can see here a new test ended. It means that you don't have any baseline to compare to, so you need to save it. Let's go to the link we have and check that it created actually a screenshot. And it worked. As you can see, no expected image because there was no baseline, but we got our Wix homepage, and we can save it. Okay, it's saved. Let's run it again so we can see it pass. Now it's making a second screenshot and comparing to the first one, so if they match, test should pass. Oi. It's taken too long now locally, but actually I was afraid to use amplitudes. Okay, it found some differences. Let's see. I was afraid to using a lot of amplitudes because I thought it will affect my performance, but then I added it to a lot of tests actually. Okay, in strict mode it can see the differences, but if I change it to layout, nothing. So in layout mode test will pass, and in strict we can make what?
I think because the background is a video.
Yes. So I'm trying to show how you can see more of the differences if they're so small and you can't actually see them. And also you can zoom, for example, here. And then you can check a baseline. You can switch between baseline and the real screenshot with some hotkeys, a T key for now, and you can see that the color of the background was different. That's why it catched it and showed as a bug.
Yeah, but how could it be? I mean, it's the same operating system, it's the same browser.
The background
Yes.
was a video. The background was a video.
Yes. Yeah. So yes, but again, if you're switching to a layout, for example, which you can use for videos and GIFs or something, it will pass because you see there is no differences.
And we define it in the test level?
In the IT library, no for now, but in ApplyTools SDK, yes. You can define it before running a test, so it won't fail, yes. Okay, and let's make a test really failed to see a lot of differences. Let's go to Google again. So now test really failed with real reasons that Google doesn't contain wicks, and ApplyTools test also failed because of differences. And we can again go there. So here you can see that the baseline was Wix and the real screenshot was Google, so everything was a difference actually.
That's
Can
layout.
change from strict to
What?
This is layout or visual?
It's a visual. So even if you're changing to layout, it also doesn't work because it's totally different layout. But you can ignore. Let's make it pass. After ignoring it, process again. So after every ignore, it will check again if you have something failed or not. And my ignored area was too small. Okay, I need to ignore so much. Don't do like I do now. Okay, now our test passed. What? Okay. In layout, in strict, it will fail still. So that's actually the power of ApplyTools. You can test with it, you can rely on it. Yeah, sure.
Can you explain the difference between strict and layout?
Yes.
Core differences.
Strict checks screenshot as you see it, as human eye. If human eye sees difference, strict mode will also catch this difference, it will fail. Layout checks only layout. So this component should be this type of component input, for example, and it should be in this place, and then it passes. So if here we have a text, for example, does it work? Yes. So here we have a text, and here we have a text also Google. It passes in layout because it's text. It doesn't matter that you have here it all starts.
Test the actual value.
Yes, yes. But for some of the pages, it's actually not needed because you need to know only that layout is not broken. For a news feed, for example, if you have a site with a news, your news every time changes. It's not static content. So the image is changing, the text is changing, but you need to know that image is there and text is there.
Is there a level between strict and layout?
No. But you can make both strict and layout for the same page for different part of the page. I mean, with the different tests. More questions for now? Yes.
Can you use this tool to test animations and transitions? Like to take a sequence of screenshots?
No, for now, no. Yes?
I see that you used JavaScript and Website. Do you have any idea how does it work on Java and
Yeah, we're using it in Java.
also like the Wix feature library?
No, this Wix library is only for JavaScript. For Java, we have our infrastructure and our automation guild, but we're also using the same ApplyTools. They have SDK for different languages. I don't remember full lists of it, but at least for Java, JavaScript, and I think Python, you can find it on their website actually. So for Java, it's also works the same. It's just different implementation because it's different language. More? No? Okay, let's continue. So summary. Why we're using screenshots? Because it's easy debugging. As I said, visualization gives you more power to understand what's going on in remote machine. Front-end developers can rely on tests. We are using visualization tests, applitools, as part of our TDD process. So when I do changes, I can see that I didn't break layout, I didn't broke some CSS or something, that everything works. You can get actually a full automation coverage, because if you are testing units, if you are testing integration, if you are testing end-to-end and also testing UI, actually you're covered. It's easy maintenance. As you saw in applitools, that I could make a test pass even when it was Google and Wix and few clicks, so it's pretty easy to make it as you need it to be. And it's less chance of human error, because QA can be sick and have a headache, or something was wrong with a mood or something, so it could not check, he or she could not check some scenarios or some layout in some browsers or something, so tests are checking everything without having a human factor. Here I have a slide with useful links. Wix Engineering, of course, Screenshot Reporter, applitools, and ice.it. So you're welcome to check it, to use it, and you're welcome. Thanks. Questions?
Yes.
Yes, first. He was first, sorry. Yes.
So I've heard people saying that they tried it. They tried like screen visualize testing, and like during the years, the months that they tried it, it failed eventually.
Okay.
So I just wanted to hear from you. How long have you guys been using it? How many tests do you run?
Okay, me specifically, we're talking about applitools, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I'm working with it for two and a half years. As I said, we're running like 500, 1,000 tests per day. Yes, at first time when we just started using it, it was difficult to set up tests correctly, properly, as we needed to be. So we got a lot of false alarms and so on. But it's just a question of how you're set up in a test, actually. It's not a problem with a tool what you're using or something. It's just a need to find a way how you and your team can actually use this tool, which features are useful for you or which are not, and use it.
So it never failed for you, like you decided to go on with it?
As I said, first probably 2 weeks, a month, yes, we got a lot of failures.
After a month?
Yeah, after a month, yeah. At least we're not getting any false alarms. So if tests fail, I know that it failed for a reason. So either it was a new feature, for example, which you need to approve again, or it was some real bugs. And with the bugs, it's really saved us a lot of time of QA work. Yes?
It looks like you are dependent on the applitool such. Suppose that test fails, and you want to use the feature that really tells you where it is. You have to go to a third-party site, applitool site. I mean, isn't that a little disturbing? I mean, once the site goes down for a week.
Okay, they have in SDK, they have a part where you can just get the test results as a JSON and process it by yourself to load the image with the baseline, to load the image with the Second screenshot, I mean, it shows the highlights differences. They're not with animation and everything as on site, but still they're highlighted, and you can even print everything in your test report if you want it in your terminal. But again, from my experience for 2 years, I never had a big up little site down for some long period of time, so I couldn't use it. Actually, it never was down. I don't know how they're doing it. So I don't have any problems with this.
Suppose it goes down, you have the picture, you can see the differences visually? Just from JSON comparisons. How does it?
No, in JSON, they're giving you the same everything as you're seeing in their site, but you just don't need to go to the site. So if the database and server and everything will be down, probably you won't get any JSON. But I don't know if you should think about such situation actually, because yes, also if Stack Overflow will be down, we won't be able to work. But any more questions? Thanks. Yes. We can take it offline.